Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast, an ongoing series of conversations and considerations to help people understand and embrace their own unique creativity for fulfilling lives and brilliant careers. My name is Ben Talon. I'm an illustrator and author, and I bring 16 years of creative industry experience working with the New York Times, The Guardian, the Premier League, and more. And I invite designers, artists, psychologists, scientists, coaches, athletes, sensitivity experts, and all kinds of thought leaders to help us broaden our knowledge of creativity. Creativity is a fundamental pillar of human happiness, a vital ingredient in the solutions to our problems, but so often misunderstood. The show is supported by founding sponsor and B Corp, Illustration X. Take a look at their stunning range of illustrators and animators at illustrationx.com. If you like the music for the show, it's by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on Spotify and all good music streaming services. Let's touch on background. I'm interested in childhood. I know we have working class roots, and you're a man, can't you?
Yeah, well, it's hard because it's a little village outside of Manchester. So it's kind of like, can't really quite call yourself a mank, but, you know, when you're trying to explain it to people, that's kind of where I locate it to. Just the outskirts of Manchester. It's a little village called Hadfield. Wasn't quite a lot going on there. Not many opportunities, creative world-wise. I wouldn't say it offers a whole lot. It has improved now. I mean, I was born in 1985 and I was born there. So at that time, I wouldn't really say it offered too much. A nice little place to grow up as a kid on a little council estate. Everybody knew each other. So, you know, you could just play out until it was dark at night. And it was a really nice environment. You know, you never locked your door, really. We did get robbed for that twice, but you didn't really lock your door. I think my mum used to put the key under the doormat for some reason when my dad used to go to the pub. Going into teenage years, it was a bit naff, you know, because you want to, when you're a teenager, you kind of want to, I don't know, develop your own kind of self, don't you? You're kind of developing into an adult and you want to explore more. And I think in a village like that, it only offers so much. So, you know, in teenage years, we were just always in Manchester all the time, go seeing bands. Bands was our thing. That's all we ever used to do every Thursday. And we just used to go and watch people there and just have a laugh. And yeah, music was a massive part of my life growing up. Huge. So yeah, just the going watching bands. But my dad was also in a band. He nearly made it, but didn't quite, and had kids and had to support them. So he had to give that up. But yeah, music-wise in the household was a huge thing as well. Growing up with music like Nirvana and the Smiths and all that sort of thing, and the Beatles. But then my dad used to listen to classical music a lot. You know, the record player was always going, and the cassette players were always going. But yeah, music was a huge part of our lives. It still is to this day. My mum, my dad, I think we attach to it on such a like an emotional level. We really engage with music quite deeply, and we share that together as well. It's something I want my kids to grow up like. I want them to really home in on just what music can offer.
I've been reading about this recently, the music thing. It's in terms of memory and emotion. I've been reading a brilliant book called Your Brain on Art by Ivy Ross and Susan Magsamen, and it goes into like the neuroscience of how we interpret art and taking culture. And it talks about how the part of the brain that, I forget the terms, I've got them written down. I will remember them at some point, but it's you know, it's all interconnected. Like the part that deals with memory and with emotion is interlinked with scent and with sound in particular, which is why when we have certain smells and why when we hear certain sounds, it conjures memories in a really strong kind of emotional way. I found that really interesting.
It's bonkers, isn't it? I was talking about this to a friend the other day. I had a bit of PTSD at one point when my sister passed away. And it was the most bizarrest thing. I've ever experienced. It was a short while after, I'd probably say a month or two. I just woke up and I could smell everything that was happening at that time. So we was in a hospital. I could smell it's quite grim, but I could smell my sister's hair. I could smell the antiseptic stuff in the hospital. It was so strong as well. It wasn't just a little whiff. It was like a full on, I am there. I am experiencing that thing again. But how a smell can just, because the smell's not there. It's just something in your brain wiring it to put you back in that place again. It was just, I can't get my head around it. It only happened once and it freaked me out.
You were talking about the kind of that it was chaotic, but that there was a certain creativity in there where like people playing fiddles and there was a musical aspect to it. And what I wanted to pick up on, because I remember this growing up, my parents weren't drinkers and they rarely went to the pub, but the friends that I was friends with from school, their parents did, and they'd stay in there all Sunday, and they weren't like having a session, they weren't on it, but they'd just be steadily in there playing pool, playing darts, old school pub kind of community, and it'd be busy and bustling. So we'd play out on the mill, which was next to the pub where we grew up, and we'd go into the pub, and the people in there, there were just so many characters and rich storytelling, and I loved it. And they'd all rub your head and give you a bag of crisps and sort of look out for you. And I think it's something that sadly we need more of that back, because I remember having a chat on the dog walk the day after the election, and while we were sort of happy that Labour got in, there was this, we were a bit concerned about the reform thing, and I said, look, how you start to deal with that, in my opinion, is you need more community. We need to get back to having community halls and shared spaces where people can come together and talk in person, instead of this horrible thing where it's all very othered and online, and it's kind of, you're played by media and all that. And I think them old school pubs were a bit of a hotbed for bringing extreme characters together and showing you that actually, while someone did need a bit of management here and there, they weren't bad people, and there was overlaps. And I loved that as a kid, and I think it's something I'd love to see now. But it also has an impact on my creativity. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is, because I love that aspect in your work, the kind of like the trashy stuff you're doing at the minute, and the trainers and the sculptures and things like that. So what part did that kind of, not just the pub scene, I guess, but the community within a working class environment have on your own storytelling and your own work?
I guess my artwork is trying to celebrate it. It's trying to celebrate the working class. Like talking about my artwork, am I articulate enough? Like, I didn't have a great education, and I guess I found myself trying to be someone I wasn't, but now I've kind of spun everything back and I'm actually celebrating who I am, my background, how we grew up, because I think it's really important to document that somehow and give it to the world, so people understand what was going on in certain areas of the country, in the world, to certain people of that generation as well. I mean, I grew up in the 90s and noughties, so everything in my artwork is like my experience of that. But I think we've kind of got a bit of a responsibility to be proud of who we are, and that's where the whole trashiness comes from. It's like, so basically I did a trashy Barbie box at Hillsborough Festival recently, so it was only last week, and the whole idea was, you went into my trashy Barbie box, which was a life-size box, and you could unleash all your trashiness without any judgment. And I guess that's what it all boils down to. I think it's really important in the art world to still hold on to our working class attitudes. And talking to Gary Mansfield about what working class is, he said it brilliantly. He says it is an attitude, because I was saying to him, am I still working class? Because, I've got a house now, and my dad isn't working in a factory anymore, and my mum and dad are actually better off financially. Who am I? Does that still mean I am working class? And he was like, of course you are, you idiot. He's like, because they're your own experiences, and it's an attitude, and that's what I want to bring through in my work that has been influenced by things like the community in the pub, all those really fun experiences, and all this, and the storytelling is a massive thing in the pub as well, and just hearing other people's stories. And I was studying art when I used to work in the pub. And I just used to draw everybody, and everyone knew I was the student artist at the time. And everyone used to encourage me and buy little drawings off me and go, "Oh, Sarah, draw this," da, 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 and I'll sit there drawing it. Shaw Ryder swapped 7 of my paintings for 7 Kasabian tickets one night when he was absolutely wasted. He probably doesn't even remember whatsoever, but yeah, I think it all brings together this, what I'm trying to say through my work.
To a degree, that's what we're here to do. We're all creative as humans, and if you can't reflect your lived experience purely, then it's a shame.
A working class life offers so much in terms of creativity, just in terms of context. There's so much to explore. Like you say, in the pubs, solely in the pubs, there's I've got a book called Know Your Place that's full of essays written by a bunch of working class people. It's really interesting. You should check it out. They've got one all about a pub and the pubs and the culture of pubs and how they're dying out and how they used to be like the pinnacle of communities, and now they're all closing down.
I'm as guilty as the next person who can spend a lot of time on my own working and not go and socialise because I'm knackered in the evenings, I've got kids and everything else. But when I push myself and I do go out for a beer with my mates, always very thankful that I did. You can't beat just that being in the same room and together and sharing what's been going on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. I totally feel you about the feeling knackered in the evening and not wanting to go out. I'm like, don't even invite me out past 7 p.m. I'm not going to go. After work and whatnot. And this is a whole thing as well, trying to be an artist, working class. You've also got to have a full-time job at the same time. Like, I mean, that's the position that I'm in now. Like and then it's hard to get your name out there because you're tired and you don't want to go to the exhibitions because you've only just got in from work, and then you've got to cook the kids' tea, and then, you've got to get their uniforms ready for the next day. And I think it adds that little extra pressure.
And what was really interesting to me, you mentioned working class women in particular, that struck a chord, because when I actually reflected on that and thought about it, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting, because you guys are one, maybe two, but probably one generation removed from a generation of our mothers and grandmothers that really didn't get that opportunity. You might have got an isolated example, but people in that, women in particular in that generation, were probably not going to uni or getting to go to art college and things like that.
We've got some good things to express, I'm trying to think of working class women. So inspirational. Oh my God, I forgot a name. The one with the fried eggs.
What's
her name?
It's not Sarah Lucas, is it?
Yeah. I love her work. But yeah, and it only kind of struck me when I was thinking about people who influenced my work, and the majority of them were all male. And it's kind of like, oh, it'd be really nice to have some more female influences, and hopefully in generations to come, that'll be something that can grow over time. But yeah, it's only something I've figured out through having conversations as well, because you don't really think about it too often until you start speaking to people, and especially on podcasts and stuff, you have a little chinwag, and then you realize these things are cropping up. And, all my paintings are females, and they are, so my trashy ladies, sorry, are all females, but they're all supposed to, they're like versions of myself. So it's a way I can express myself. And they all have kind of like little subtle hints of me as a person, but I want them to celebrate all working class female people as a whole. We're not somebody to look down upon. We're not somebody to judge. We are amazing people who should be celebrated, and some of us can offer so much stuff to the world. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So if we can all rally together, I think working together is a really important aspect of it. And that is something I would really like to do, is work with, maybe collaborate with more female working class artists.
It's kind of systemic and it's historic as well. And it's very hard now, particularly since the EBAC and the kind of diminishing of the arts in education. If you've not got the guidance coming from the home, like I imagine that your boys would be in the situation the same as my kids, where they're going to be all right because we value artistic expression massively, and we're going to make sure that they've got ample opportunities to find their voice.
Especially school cuts. I know my kids' school in particular, we got placed there. We never, so we moved to Sheffield, sorry. So we lived in Hemel Hempstead for 10 years and we moved up north to Sheffield. And the schools are all full. So we got placed in a school. It wasn't the ones that we chose. So we chose 3 schools and we didn't get any of them. So they got placed in this school, and the art department absolutely infuriates me. At parents' evening, I just get so riled up about it. But I know they're settled in there and I don't want to move them. They've made their friends. So I find it my responsibility to make sure that they're still doing their creative subjects, but in a different way, whether that's coming around an art gallery with me, whether that's drawing. I like to set them daft tasks of things to draw. For instance, my son will always, Vincent will always run in my room and he'll go, what shall I draw now? And I'll be like, I don't know, a unicorn in a rubber ring in a swimming pool or something. And then he'll go away and he'll draw that and come back and I'll be like, right, what's next? And the teacher said to me at parents' evening, oh, you used to teach, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get back into it again at some point. And she went, don't do it. Don't do it. And she was so negative about her teaching role. I just thought, how the hell are you going to inspire kids? How are you going to do it? Because she was her attitudes to me was like, she really didn't like doing what she was doing, and she wanted to move on but couldn't financially. That's through what she was saying. That's the impression I got, and I thought it was really sad. I asked her if she did any 3D work, clay or whatnot, just any 3-dimensional work, and she said no, because it was too messy, and the art class has carpets and the carpets can't get messy. And I just thought, oh my God, it's mad. It's so sad.
It's so antithetical to it, and this is going on in unis as well. I do particularly since the book came out. I've been promoting it this summer by going and doing talks in universities all over the show, and a number of them, they've had to fight their corner to be allowed to put artwork on the walls. Can you believe that in a creative course in a uni? And I don't know whether it's, a friend raised the point. He said, I wonder if it's like a kind of, they're a bit scared about what the work might, what might be in it. Are they going to upset someone? I don't know whether it's that, health and safety. I don't know whether they just can't be bothered because it's become a business model. I don't know what the reasons are, but that was insane to me.
It is a real shame. It's really sad. And I wonder what the implications will be in these generations later on in life. I wonder how the creative, I always worry about how the creative industry is going to look down the line. But maybe we can, like me, taking on the responsibility of inputting that into my kids' lives. Maybe I've got a bit of responsibility to input that into the community as well. I do a lot of community work and workshops on the skateboard scene. And, we kind of teach really basic skills in the creative world. So, sometimes we even do like badge making. Everyone loves badge making. They get a little circle, they can put whatever they want in it and press it into a badge. They can celebrate anything about their identity, what their interests are, what they think's funny. They've got that little blank circle to put whatever they want in. But also just teaching basic skills like drawing each other, that sort of thing. I led a class last year where I was getting kids to draw with their feet, and then drawing without looking at your drawing, just simple things like that. Just you don't have to hold a pencil in your hand to make a drawing. You can,
No.
but unless you're challenged to do it differently, you're probably not going to think about it.
No, it's true, and it's about more than just the act. So I had a friend got in touch to ask some advice because he's setting up a similar workshop in around Wrexham, I think. No, not Wrexham, Worcester, and I was saying, look, keep it really simple for the reasons you've just explained, because it's the kids that are likely to come to it from working class backgrounds who haven't been had that artistic input. They're going to be at a really basic level, but that's not the point. It's about showing them that they can express themselves, showing them a
Yeah,
different way to frame and share their story, which is just a human basic requirement for happiness and good mental health. That's what it comes
definitely.
down to for me. It's not really, they're always going to get better if they carry on doing it, but more importantly, it just gives them another tool to say something.
It's all about the tools. It's all about the tools. One of our tools at our workshops that always go down well is our typewriter. It cost a fiver, um, off like eBay or something. And it was brown plastic. So I took it apart, spray painted it like bright blue, stuck loads of stickers on it, put it all back together. And it is always the biggest hit in our workshops. It's weird. It's like I think kids come over and they've never used a typewriter before. So getting them just to bash the key down rather than lightly typing. And, you can't delete, but let's celebrate those mistakes and all that type of thing. But yeah, they love the typewriter.
What did you study? Because I'm very interested in the sheer range in your work. I find it quite inspiring.
There's quite a lot, isn't there? I get bored easily. That's why. Studied fine art. Studied fine
Yeah.
art, did BA. Yeah. It's a bit of a culture shock. Wouldn't say I got a lot out of the time I spent there, but made some really good friends. I struggled a lot. Wouldn't say I got the grades that I needed or wanted. I wasn't really proud of my results. But again, my student loan didn't even cover my rent. So then I had to work at the same time. And I worked in a club that closed at 4 a.m. And then I had to kind of go to university after. Yeah, I don't think I put 100% of me into it, which is a shame, but probably a difficult time in my life. A lot of what I was doing at that time was escapism from things that were going on at home life struggles, just some really a big bunch of really shitty stuff. And I went to London to uni to kind of escape from all that. The same reason why I used to drink a stupid amount, you know, do silly things, which I'm not very proud of, but it's just part of growing up and finding
Mhm.
who I am. But yeah, I went to university, and I guess that I was hoping my irresponsible, reckless behavior would stop, but it probably only got worse. And that was because the type of people there really intimidated me. I didn't feel comfortable in who I was and my working class background whatsoever. I felt like it was something that was used to. I always it helped in a way that I moved away from my small little village. I think I lived in Manchester city centre at that point, actually. I think I lived in Fallowfield, but I moved away from up north to down south, and it definitely helped in that respect, just to open my mind up, other things that are going on in the country, and I met so many cool people, like my best friends, and that I still have today. So I do have a lot of love for London. I do.
Yeah.
First year, I think I struggled just to acclimatize to it. It's a massive difference. But after about a year, yeah, totally fell in love with the city. My husband's from London. That's where I met my husband. And I've got a lot of love for the city for sure.
Yeah. And recklessness is something that's quite interesting that you mentioned there. It's something that I covered briefly in the book, talking about abandon and it's kind of unsustainable, I think, on a creative level, but in short bursts can be quite valuable, and it depends what place it's coming from. I'm not trying to say it's got an upside. It probably hasn't, to be honest. But
Mm.
it's a character trait in a lot of people. But I think you mentioned it on Gary's when you said might even be like quite a working class thing. I'd go with that. I think so. I think
Mm,
a lot of the working
mm.
class lads I grew up with have certainly got that button, you know.
Yeah, I've been reading these kind of papers, research papers that are saying working class people are more prone to drink excessively for reasons like escapism. And I'm really intrigued of that result that was found through this research because I think it's something that I've experienced personally, and that's kind of what I get through my artwork as well. I've got a new series coming out of something about recklessness. It touches on a bit of humor, but hopefully that'll be coming out soon. Um, but yeah, this working class and reckless way of abusing alcohol or drinking alcohol, where some, you get, I mean, it's not everybody, is it? But
No,
apparently the percentages are quite high. I can't remember exactly what the percentages are.
I think I would also say that the diminishing of communities, pubs and stuff, is probably plays a part. Although maybe I'm sort of contradicting myself there with the pub aspect of it,
Mm,
um, but I also think that purpose and belonging is key. And I think that, like
yeah.
we said about the lack of arts and education and things like that, if you're someone who sort of drops out of school quite early or is being bounced around, let's say the criminal justice system, and don't get in with school, then you there is a bit of fuck it. It's like, if your track record says that you're something of a failure or that you don't have a lot of purpose and belonging, you don't feel a part of
Mm.
something bigger, then I think it can lead to that, definitely. And then you also have to quite cynically factor in the fact that fucking marketing budgets to put drinks adverts and gambling adverts and all that in working class areas, which is a real thing, you know. It's like the
I want to
percentage.
look into that more. I
Yeah.
want to look into that more and just advertising in general in the world of alcohol.
Do you have yourself down as a naturally curious person?
Oh yeah, it's my brain. I get bored too easily.
Mm.
And you'll probably see that in my artwork, and I really try to not do it. Um, but not do it in a way that my work is unrelated to the next thing. Um, Quite often I'll make something just because I want to make it. And I've learned as well not to take a picture of everything that I do and post it on Instagram, or else I'll just confuse everybody about my art practice and what I'm actually trying to do. But yeah, naturally curious for sure. It's my attention, I think, as well. I learn a lot by doing, and when I'm taught something that it seems to be the only way that will sink into my brain is if I draw it. So when I got the technician job at the workshop at Chef Uni, my manager was kind of going through machinery with me, and I'd be like, "Hold on a minute," and I'd be like drawing the whole thing out, every little screw, every little thing, and I'm like just jotting it down. And but that's the way my brain engages in it to have it there visually. I'm really good at like remembering directions. Like if
Mm.
I've walked somewhere or driven somewhere, I'll remember that quite vividly, but I can't remember names. Um I can't remember how to pronounce things. Is a weird one. It always gets me a bit paranoid about how I sound. Um yeah, there's a few things that I do get worried about, like talking to people, just having conversations, I get a bit worried about. And I'm sure it's all to do with dyslexia, but it's actually £400 to get tested for dyslexia. So I've never done it.
Is that right?
£400, yeah.
Fucking hell.
Then I'm like,
I
well, what if
didn't.
I'm not?
Yeah, kind of a refund. Yeah.
Get a grade. Like,
That's
oh,
obscene though, because it's so pivotal for a
mhm.
person's trajectory and their needs.
Yeah, yeah. It should just be something that people can access, but obviously it's not important.
Looking at your art practice, would it be safe to say that a lot of the pieces you do are kind of for you first and foremost? Because I see a lot of emotional creativity there, as in,
Yeah.
defining that as the things you've got to say about the world and your life, as opposed to intellectual creativity being a task you might be given at work that you might not otherwise do.
Yeah, yeah. If I don't want to do it, I probably won't do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my artwork is solely for me to express myself emotionally. and trying to figure out life, who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing. I learn a lot through my art practice about myself personally. Sounds quite selfish though, doesn't it? You know, it's like me. And I think there becomes a point where I can say, rather than just me, it's we. It's like, hold on a minute, who else is having these experiences too? Who else is trying to figure out their female working class identity in the creative world? And I want to turn it into a more we than a me. But I've just written my essay, and that kind of goes into my life and my artwork. But I think that was necessary for me to move on to the next step, which is like, right, who else is experiencing this? Let's work together. Let's do something to actually change what is going on in working class education and life.
This is something that's come up recently. I've learned a lot about both the practice, but also what I'm trying to say in the lived experience, and about me personally from other people, from feedback, like getting reviews on books and kind of going, oh, I never thought that I was doing that, but I actually was. And it's really obvious now that someone else has told me it. So actually, that's quite interesting. It's a bit of a
Feedback's a
conductor.
really helpful thing as a creative. I think it's it's a really healthy thing to learn of how others are perceiving your work, which doesn't often happen because you're a bit immersed in what you're doing. You know, it's not a regular thing that you get feedback. A lot of my work have got really personal elements in it that are probably glanced over. Some really dark things that I know what they mean, but I'm not sure. If you look hard enough, you'll maybe see it or interpret it in some way, but there is a lot of dark elements to it.
And going back to what you said earlier as well about the kind of the drink and things like that with working class people, I think that outlet is really important, and this is why I think it's really important. And it's never just about people have this interpretation of art that is this luxury, or it's this thing that just certain people do and all a bit woo woo, and it's like, no, it's not. It's a necessity in my opinion.
And fully immerse yourself in you. Who am I? You know, what was my background? What's my life like? Where is my life moving forward? I'm not sure, but I think it's definitely helped me the last year by doing that, mental health wise. At first it didn't. At first I got quite depressed because of it, because I was bringing up things and remembering things that I'd rather not remember. But then they soon diminished, and I saw the positive outlook of actually, it's weird because you wouldn't even see this in my work, but it's like this whole journey that I've been on.
Massively humor, all the things you can lace in there, and like you say though, subversion is important. It doesn't have to be overt. You don't have to square everything away that's going on in your work.
I want people to see what they see in my work. It's up to them. So I'm going to be my work's going to be shown alongside artists like Kid Acne. You heard of Kid Acne?
I have, yeah.
Melville, who's Ace, and Joe Peel as well. And for that exhibition, we're going to have a limited edition of beers with the artist's artwork on it as well.
Super.
That's going to be really fun and exciting. There's some more artists that we're going to get involved in that. And yeah, that's this year. I haven't got much else coming up other than that. I feel like I've just completed a load of work. So we did the Tramlines Festival where I did my trashy Barbie art installation.
Which was awesome, by the way. That video was fantastic.
Oh, do you like it? It was so much fun. Yeah. It was so much fun. Everyone engaged in it for 3 days. That trashy box was just continuously being used, and it was free and it was fun and it was just brilliant. I find that Sheffield people are really proud of their city too. They know the history of it. They know You know, what businesses have changed over the years. They can tell you a story about X, Y, and Z. And I love that. I love that about Sheffield. It's brilliant. But creativity wise, there's loads of opportunities here. So it's just kind of like talking to other people and, you know, when you click with someone, then doing projects together, that kind of just happens naturally at exhibitions.
I love it. Yeah, Sheffield has got its own energy. I really love it.
Yeah, it has. It has.
Well, cheers for taking the time, Sarah, especially after the dentist. I appreciate it.
I know my mouth is just started to unnumb now. Excellent. All right, then have a good day, Ben. Take it easy.
You too, Sarah. See
All right,
ya.
see you in a bit. Bye. 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 Bye.